Tunisia's parliament calls for a day of solidarity following a violent rampage at one of Tunis's top tourism sites. Struck by Ebola, we'll revisit a Liberian village 6 months after the peak of the outbreak. And the youngest members of the Kardashian clan set out to conquer the app world. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. Tonight, Tunisian authorities have arrested 9 people in connection with a massacre at a Tunis museum that killed 23 people. The Tunisian president's office released no further details on those detained. Meanwhile, the nation's parliament has called for a day of solidarity. VOA's Clara Frank has more on Wednesday's frantic day in Tunis.
The target of the attack was the parliament and the National Museum. These are symbols, and this attack was a message to tell us that terrorism today has changed, in that it has a presence in the city and is eyeing our national symbols.
Prime Minister Habib Assid identified the shooters as Yassine Labidi and Hatem Kachnawi. He said they were wearing military-style uniforms when they hunted and chased down tourists at the National Bardo Museum in Tunis before taking a small group captive. Police killed 2 attackers in an operation to free the hostages, and authorities said they were searching for up to 3 potential accomplices.
This attack is aimed at destroying the tourism industry and Tunisian economy in general.
Mr. Assid said 2 Tunisians were among the victims, along with people from Germany, Italy, Poland, and Spain. Japanese officials said Thursday the dead also included 3 people from Japan. Tunisian television showed images of older tourists and children fleeing the scene under the cover of armed security forces. A spokesman for the Interior Ministry said at least 100 people were inside the museum at the time of the attack. Nearby, the Tunisian parliament was evacuated. Lawmakers were meeting at the time of the attack to debate anti-terrorism legislation. Clara Frank, VOA News.
Well, the U.S. Department of Defense has confirmed that one of its drone strikes in southern Somalia is responsible for killing a leader of the Islamist militant group Al-Shabaab. The airstrike on March the 12th hit a car carrying Aden Garab, a top official in Al-Shabaab security service, the Amniyat. The Pentagon says Gerar had worked for Al-Shabaab's intelligence wing and was connected to the 2013 attack on Westgate Mall in Nairobi, Kenya. More than 60 people were killed in the mall attack. Al-Shabaab released a video last month calling for attacks on Western shopping malls. Now to West Africa, as Nigerians prepare to head to the polls on March the 28th, many voters in the northern state of Kaduna have a good reason to fear the election, where during the previous poll of 2011, the region was plunged into religious violence, and many hope this time around peace will prevail. Philip Jagaba's village was on the front line during Nigeria's post-election violence of 2011. Here, Christians and Muslims clashed over the poll results with brutal consequences. At least 1,000 people lost their lives in the region and thousands more were displaced.
From here upward is for the Christians, and from here was mainly the Muslims that were settling here. So that, as you can see, some of the houses of the Christians were also affected, and that of the Muslims also affected. So it was the violence that brought all these distortions.
In Kaduna State, the 2 communities have always lived side by side, but elections have a habit of stoking rivalries. Musa is a Muslim, and 4 years ago, his life was turned upside down.
They burned my house. 2 boys from my junior sister, they killed them. They killed my father. They killed my junior brothers, 3. And they wound me. Even still up to now, look at the wounded. It is a bullet inside here, still up to now.
The market in the town of Kafanchan in central Nigeria was destroyed 4 years ago. It has since come back to life, but as Nigeria goes back to the polls again on March the 28th, many fear for the worst.
We are pleading to the government that enough security should be on the ground for the safety of with the electorates, so that whatsoever is the outcome of the election, people can still go about their businesses.
Beyond religious differences, unemployment and poverty serve only to exacerbate divisions. In the state capital, Kaduna, efforts are being made to heal the old wounds.
We have what we call the community peace observers, and they are there to watch out for conflict indicators. And once they notice conflict indicators, they will call this center, and our center in collaboration with agencies, both security agencies and other related bodies, they will intervene.
Just as in 2011, this year's election will see President Goodluck Jonathan, a Christian, face Muhammadu Buhari, a Muslim. Nigerians of all faiths will be praying the political fight doesn't again spill over into open conflict. While South Sudanese President Salva Kiir is dismissing the threat of sanctions by the United Nations, the UN Security Council passed a resolution on a framework for introducing punitive measures on the nation's leaders who undermine an ongoing peace process. The U.S. and others have shown increasing annoyance with President Kiir and rebel leader Riek Machar, the former vice president, whom they blame both for putting personal political ambitions above the need for peace. The UN Security Council approved a U.S.-drafted sanctions regime on March the 3rd, but did not impose travel bans and asset freezes on officials or an arms embargo. Washington says the aim was to tell those who chose war over peace that they would be held to account. In a direct rebuke to the UN, Mr. Kiir warned the tactic would not work.
If people are talking about sanctions against South Sudan, unless they go up and agree with God to stop raining in South Sudan, that means it will be a real sanction. But as long as there will be rain in South Sudan, we can make use of that land. And we can grow what we can eat there. Forgetting about anything to be brought from any other country.
Well, at least 10,000 people have been killed and 1.5 million civilians have fled their homes in violence, during which both sides have been accused of ethnic-based atrocities, mass rapes, and using child soldiers. Now to Ebola. Journalist Ben Mushla revisits Liberia's Margibi County, returning to a village that was terribly affected during the height of the Ebola outbreak. He first went in September with a local burial team, and while since then, more than a dozen villagers have died. Survivors are devastated and complain about a lack of government help.
We first came here in September. A young woman had died of Ebola, and a local burial team readied itself to remove her body. Now, 6 months later, we're back with Marcus Spear, the head of all local burial teams in Margibi County, to see what has become of the village.
This wasn't here. This wasn't here.
A fence was built to keep school children away from the infected area. Other than that, not much has changed physically.
Okay, go down.
On our previous visit 6 months ago, the burial team had to act quickly and there was no time to linger. Now with more time, I find out that the village is called Caulfield. About 200 people live here. The name of the dead woman was Alice Collins. Her father Joseph didn't fall sick, but he says shortly after Alice's death, her husband and her 3-month-old baby died of Ebola too. When the undertakers removed Alice from this little hut, Joseph Collins shouted at them. He says it was not because he was angry or didn't want them to take Alice away. He just felt so devastated. 15 people died of Ebola in Caulfield. Kebe Mali lost 2 of her sons. She also got infected, but survived. Kebe says they haven't received any government support and can hardly get by. And when she was sick with Ebola, all her belongings were burned to prevent the virus from spreading.
They tell all the things from in the house. People had to help me with La Passe. No food, nothing, just suffering.
The people of Caulfield make ends meet by growing cassava and other crops and selling it on the local market. There are no jobs. It's not enough to send their kids to school. They say before Ebola their life was already hard. Now it's even worse. Benno Müchler for VOA News, Margibi County.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, a Paralympians' urgent message about polio vaccination. Stay with us.
Nigeria heads to the polls March 28th for a landmark election. What happens there matters throughout Africa. Turn to Voice of America for the facts. VOA reporters are in Nigeria and surrounding countries covering the campaigns and the issues and counting down to the March 28th election and beyond. Special Nigeria Decides 2015 coverage is underway now. A commitment to Africa from Voice of America.
Welcome back to Africa 54. It's time now for our Thursday Health Report, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Madu with a heartwarming story about an advocate for the polio vaccination. Lino.
Hello, Vincent. Experts and advocates worldwide are fighting to ensure that polio, which often can cause permanent paralysis, is finally eradicated globally. The highly infectious viral disease has no cure and can only be prevented by immunization. Paralympic champion Denis Ogbe contracted polio at the age of 3 while in the hospital for malaria. He has made it his mission to advocate for the importance of vaccines and contribute to the final push in ending polio once and for all.
It's very important for me, one, because I'm a survivor, and I was one of the very few ones that I can consider myself a survivor and doing something actually to help to take care of that aspect of it. And then the second aspect is that here in the U.S., most times, diseases such as polio have been eradicated long time ago. So when you talk about polio, people still ask, especially the younger generation, that, hey, what's polio? And I'm here to advocate that polio still exists. Polio is still real. I'm a living example. And we have to look at those children back in Africa and a lot of developing countries that are still being affected by this disease.
Now, there are very few countries today that are polio endemic. Nigeria is one of the African countries, if not the only African country, that remain polio endemic over the years. When you look at the history behind it, at some point there was a controversy where some leaders did not want to vaccinate the population. Do you go back to Nigeria and talk to people? Do you advocate on the ground in Nigeria, or do you work here in the United States hoping that some of the work that you do here will have a positive impact in your country?
Yes, that's what I'm doing. I'm here right now, and some of the works I'm doing now is going to have a positive impact back at home. And one of the challenges I know that we still have, it was there back then, is the educational, the awareness piece of it. On the forefront, like in the north, that's where it's, what can I say, it's predominantly in the north, and mostly it's lack of education and some of the religious beliefs to like counter that.
Today you are a Paralympian champion. You've won many, many trophies. What was the turning point? When did you go from being a polio survivor, perhaps feeling sorry for yourself, to participating in sports competition and winning, actually?
I think it started from my house. I'm one of 11 siblings, from one mother, one father. So that is the competition started right there. That push came from when I want to play with my peers, and sometimes some of them seize my crutches, because if I don't want to use the wheelchair and I want to like stand, they seize my crutches and dare me to take couple steps. So by so doing that, I take 1, 2 steps, fall down with bruises. But then while I was doing that, my right leg was getting a little bit stronger. Those are the kind of things that I was doing that was keeping me very competitive in what I do. And then I went into sports. I tried soccer. Of course, I cannot run. So what I do is I man the post. So I used to be the goalkeeper. And most times, because of my disability, most of my competitors say, oh, they'll just kick the ball towards Dennis' bad side and he won't be able to stop it. But with time, I perfected that. So if you think I have a disadvantage to my left and you kick the ball there, you'll be surprised that I will catch it.
When we look at the whole issue of vaccination, some people are still very reluctant to vaccinate their children. We've seen recently here in the United States there was a measles outbreak, and some parents spoke out and said they don't want to vaccinate their children. Now, what do you say to these parents?
Each parents have what they want for their own children, so you can't force anybody, especially here in the U.S., but they should try and look beyond what they believe and read more, and then see people like us and do more research around. They'll see that those vaccinations save a lot of life. Those vaccinations is something that will either make you or mar you.
What keeps you going today?
But I believe God has blessed me so much and took me out of that poverty and put me where I am, that I can use my voice to educate people, one, and show people where I've come from, where I am today. And I know that I'm not taking all the glory. A lot of people have helped me in the course of my life to be where I am today, that hopefully we can advocate and we're going to get more resources, especially to Nigeria, to end polio once and for all. Shot at Life through United Nations and Rotary Club and a lot of clubs have done a lot of things towards that. But right now, we just have that last push to make sure we eradicate polio once and for all.
What a story there. Well, Dennis Ogbe has participated in the Paralympic Games twice for Nigeria. Since moving in the United States, he has won several gold medals in discus and shot put throw. He was a member of the American Paralympic team for the 2012 London Games. And that's our Africa Health Report for today. Back to you, Vincent.
Well, Lenore, thanks a lot for sharing with us. And be sure to watch Lenore Modu's Health Reports every Tuesday and Thursday right here on Africa 54. Now, finding hidden cracks in large structures such as bridges and airplanes can be the difference between life and death if the law leads to a catastrophic collapse. Rather, the flaw leads to a catastrophic collapse. Now, scientists at Bristol University in Britain say they have discovered a new way of looking inside critical metal parts to identify cracks before they fail using sound imaging. Viewers, George Putage reports.
On August 1, 2007, an 8-lane steel bridge over the Mississippi River in Minneapolis, Minnesota, collapsed during rush hour, killing 13 people and injuring 145. An investigation concluded that the main cause of the collapse were undersized elements of the bridge that simply gave way under the heavy load. Metal fatigue like that starts with microscopic cracks that form at points of concentrated stress. A group of scientists at Bristol University, led by senior lecturer Anthony Croxford, discovered that sending hundreds of different ultrasonic waves into a structure and then listening and analyzing their echoes can be used to detect the tiniest cracks.
It's that it lets you see smaller cracks, closed cracks, cracks that, so when I say a closed crack, you can imagine if you have a crack in a piece of metal, it could be a bit open like that, you can have a gap in between it. If you've got that gap in between it, you get reflections off the edge of it, but you don't really know how big it is.
Croxford says, unlike purely linear systems, which create echoes of the same frequency sent into the material, his phased array of sound-sending units returns harmonics, echoes of different frequencies.
The nonlinear approach means that you can actually hear something from them. You're listening to different effects rather than just listening for that echo from the crack.
Using an array of attached sensors, Croxford is testing a seemingly perfect part of a wing from an Airbus A320. A linear system would not be able to discover cracks forming around the rivet holes because the hole would create one big echo.
By using this novel approach, we can now pick up a crack close to our hole, which is directly relevant to, say, aerospace applications, where they're worried about cracks growing from rivet holes, things like that.
Croxford says the phased array system uses only one piece of equipment to get both a nonlinear and linear image. The technology could allow inspectors to get more accurate assessments of damage in materials such as crucial aircraft parts, so they can be replaced before they fail. George Putich, VOA News, Washington.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. It's a family affair. Kim Kardashian's younger sisters follow in her mobile footsteps. We'll explain after the break.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines. In Tunisia, the death toll rises following yesterday's shooting at a museum to at least 20 people. In Chad, post-Boko Haram attack, children of Baga Sola receive support and assistance in refugee camps. And the army of Chad and Niger kill at least 200 Boko Haram militants and encourage Damasak civilians to return home. And finally, in the DRC, political unrest prior to presidential elections results in the arrest of at least 40 activists, including a U.S. diplomat. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. Move over, Kim. Your little sisters are working on a mobile game too. Well, Kendall and Kylie Jenner rose to fame on the popular reality TV show Keeping Up with the Kardashians. The sisters are working with Glue Mobile to build a game that will center on interactions with others and mentors as they grow their careers. Glue is the company behind the hugely popular app Kim Kardashian Hollywood and the recently announced Katy Perry mobile game. The Kendall and Kylie game will launch later this year on iOS and Android. Well, next up, has the Queen of Pop made a love connection? Well, Madonna made the most of her appearance on Ellen DeGeneres' show, Ellen, and had a heart-to-heart with Justin Bieber. Ellen joked that since Bieber had just turned 21, he might be a good candidate for Madonna's boyfriend. Madonna joked, on the outside, he is 21. On the inside, he's 22. She admitted that the youngest man she dated recently was 22. The trio then played a game of Never Have I Ever, with all three answering questions revolving around sex and dating. Well, and finally, HBO is preparing to air one of the year's most buzzed-about documentaries. Oscar-winning director Alex Gibney's Going Clear takes on Scientology and celebrity connections to the church. The film takes on long whispered about topics about the church, including claims of brainwashing, physical and mental abuse, and meddling in the lives of A-list members like Tom Cruise and John Travolta. The film features former church members and takes on Scientology's tax-exempt status, which the documentary says the church won through intimidation. Going Clear will premiere on HBO Sunday, March the 29th, and that is what is trending today. Well, now the natural hair movement is sweeping across Ivory Coast and prompting women to ditch chemical hair strengthening products. But local attitudes and mainstream media still strongly influences what is considered attractive. Well, Christine Robbie reports from Abidjan on a group of women trying to change views on natural hair.
Over the past 5 years in Ivory Coast, women have increasingly exchanged hair extensions and relaxers for kinks, curls, and twists. Reason Up Hair Salon, which specializes in natural styles, opened in December in Abidjan. Stylist and co-owner Azi Oyuru says natural hair is more than a fad.
This trend is sticking. Once women try natural hairstyles, then they find it hard to return to relaxers.
Oyuru says Ivory Coast women were inspired by a global trend toward natural hair, which embraces ethnicity and diversity in beauty. But she notes the lingering prejudices of colonialism can still influence opinion here.
For some people, they say natural hair is dirty or doesn't have the same value as white hair. I think that feeling goes back a long, long time.
And natural styles are meeting resistance at the workplace. Women like Mamoru Kayata says straight hair is still mandatory at the office.
For most companies, bosses don't like it when the hair is natural. They frown on it. For example, they will tell you your hair is too frizzy. We must fix it a bit.
Kayata says some parents begin straightening their children's hair at an early age, so it's all some young women know. Adioma Mensa has come to the salon twice a month for a chemical relaxer since she was 16. She says she tried natural hair, but prefers her hair straight.
I tried, but natural hair is not pretty on me. I prefer the way relaxers make my hair soft.
3 years ago, Mariam Diaby created a group called Nappies de Babi to encourage women to embrace their kinky hairdos.
The main objective is to say to women, you do not need to straighten your hair to be pretty afterwards, to have healthy hair, or to have nice hairstyles. We're here if you need advice.
Diaby blames mainstream media for the slow acceptance of natural hair.
90% of ads show a fair-skinned girl with smooth, long hair. That's what we project into the society. The prototype of a beautiful woman is one that is pale, one that has smooth and long hair. As a result, all the world wants it to be like that.
Karamoko Medina says she thought it was too expensive to go from perm to natural hair, but finds what she needs at the local market to keep her hair healthy.
I use a lot of shea butter to make my hair softer. In addition, I use avocados, bananas, eggs, honey.
Members of Nappies de Babi, while natural hair enthusiasts, say what is important is to share information so women can decide what hairstyles make them happy and define their own personal beauty. Kristen Roby for VOA News, Abidjan.
Well, and that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC. And in the mornings today, Break Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching from all of us here in Washington. Have a good night. We're able to touch on things that are important to people on an everyday basis. Hello and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54.
In a lively half hour, news, sports, health, lifestyle information, comments from our viewers. Africa 54, the best for Africa, about Africa. Join us only on VOA.